National Geographic has a last-minute entry in the limited series race at the Emmys with Barkskins, led by David Thewlis. I'm Riley Chow of Gold Derby. Now, David, viewers have seen you on screen for 35 years. So how was it being at the top of a call sheet for a TV show?
It was a good question. It's a refreshing change, even though I have been working, as you say, for 35 years. I'm often, supporting role. I kind of came to prominence in a role in a Mike Leigh film called Naked, which I was the lead, and that's what got me known to the whole world, mainly and certainly across the Atlantic. And ever since, I've generally been kind of supporting a lot of kind of impressive people in Hollywood, and it's one of the reasons I took this job, because I felt like it'd be nice to try and carry something, even though it's very much an ensemble. If you've seen the thing, it's I may be right up at the top there, but it's certainly an ensemble piece. But it brings with it more responsibility to feel that you're carrying the whole thing, just in case it's a pile of junk, which it's not.
Yes. So we always see you in big hits like Wonder Woman and Harry Potter, as well as Oscar movies recently like The Theory of Everything and Anomalisa. But a couple of years ago, you specifically got your first nominations from the Emmys, the Golden Globes, and Critics' Choice Awards for your role in Fargo. So I want to backtrack a bit, and I just want to ask, could you tell that role was going to be really special for you in terms of recognition?
With Fargo, yeah. Well, I can't say I knew it was for sure going to be special in terms of recognition, but I knew it was very special in terms of the writing was superb, and it was the first time I ever took any television, certainly, this kind of long-form television that's so popular these days. I'd done sort of one-off TV things in Britain, but I'd never, ever, in 35 years, ever done a series, to my memory. And when I first heard they were doing Fargo as a series, I thought it was a terrible idea. I was such a fan of the film. But then I saw the first two seasons, and I thought they were fantastic. I met Noah Hawley, who pitched the whole thing to me. He described the character, the whole arc of the story in such great detail. I remember he told me what the last scene of the whole 10 episodes would be, and sure enough, a few months later, there I was in Calgary shooting exactly what he described. So he wasn't the kind of writer who was making it up as he went along, and it's without doubt one of the great roles I've had that any actor could have. It was such a gift. It was such a perverse role, Varga, and something I enjoyed every millisecond of. It was. I think it'll always be one of my favorite things I've ever done. So it's nice that I wasn't disappointed in that it did give me a lot of recognition.
Yeah, I asked about that one because I'm wondering if, with Barkskins, they say, hey, do you want to do a limited series, come back up to Canada? And you thought, oh, well, it worked out so great the last time. So I'm wondering how you got this role and got attached to this project.
Well, after Fargo, I took a long time before I did anything again. And a lot of TV was offered as it is these days, because and that would have been something I wouldn't have gone for in recent years before, because there was a kind of a stigma that if you were doing TV, you weren't doing movies and you weren't as successful. You should be seen to be doing movies, which may have cost me a little in that I was always playing supporting roles in enormous movies rather than taking lead parts in some smaller TV pieces. But now TV being what it is, I'm absolutely more open to doing it. And I waited a long time because nothing seemed like it was going to match the quality of Fargo. So I just held out and held out and held out for as long as I could. And then this came along at a time when I'd been doing quite a few independent movies. I was actually right in the middle of making a movie with Charlie Kaufman up in North New York at the time this came to me. So, and I'd done this thing with Sally Hawkins called Eternal Beauty, and a thing with Billy Piper called Rare Beasts. And so again, I was sort of existing on this sort of low independent movie bar. And I was in New York for the day, and these guys, Elwood Reed, David Slade, the makers of Barkskins, happened to be there on the same day, and the script came my way. And I sat down with them and just realised I had a great affinity with them, and I was very fond of the script because it was nothing like I'd ever read. It's something very different again, not at all like anything I've seen, and it's a period of history I wasn't familiar with. And the writing is very articulate, very it's of the period, but it's also a poetry that is just Elwood Reed's unique poetry.
Okay, can you elaborate on that? What made the script so different?
Well, firstly, like I say, it's a period of history that I'm not familiar with at all, and I don't know how many people are in North America. I would suggest very few are. In Europe, we're sort of schooled in Europe. I should say it's the late 17th century. So we're very familiar with that period in Britain. It's one of the most kind of documented periods of British history, with Shakespeare and Queen Elizabeth and the Restoration and everything. So it's, we're very well schooled in that, but it didn't really ever occur to me what was going on the other side of the world at that time. And my experience of the history of the Native American often comes from, Hollywood and cowboy movies, etc. I'd done New World with Terrence Malick, which was set in the early part of the 17th century. So I did have some idea of this clash of cultures. It was a similar terrain. But I didn't know anything about New France at all, even though I'd spent time in Canada and I knew, obviously the Quebecois and the French culture there. My wife is European French, but I had no education in terms of why Quebec was French, why Montreal is French. I didn't know the influence of the French all down through Louisiana, right down to New Orleans at that time, and how it was lost so quickly by the French. So I found it so fascinating, as I hope viewers to this show will, because it's at the risk of making it sound mundane, it's very educational, but it's very rich in drama, therefore, because it's kind of a brutal, strange, superstitious time.
Now, you play a landowner named Claude Trepanier, or some people call him Trepanier. So I'm wondering about all the accent work on this show, if they gave all the actors a directive about how to speak, or how you guys approach that.
Well, we had a common voice coach, and there's always this question when you do anything with accents: is are we all going to do the same accent? Or I did a film some years ago called The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, obviously set in Nazi Germany, and we all spoke with English accents because that was the decision for that particular film. Instead of English actors doing German accents, we would speak in English and have it given that we were, of course, German. With this, it was important that we delineated the English and the French, because the story is absolutely about the clash of these two nations at this time. So we had to be clear about that. At the same time, we were working with actors from all over the world. There are 2 Australians, there are Americans, there's Irish, Welsh, Canadian, obviously, British, English, Scottish. So it's curiously, not everyone is playing. I mean, Aaron Bernard is a Welshman playing an Englishman. There's an Australian playing a Scotsman, an Australian playing an Englishman, rather, and an Australian playing a French woman, me playing a Frenchman, an American playing a French woman. It was a real kind of hodgepodge show, but we were, it was absolutely necessary that we all invested in it as much as possible. As I say, I have a large part of my life is spent with my brothers-in-law, my wife, my mother-in-law, French. I spent a lot of my time in France, so it was kind of very familiar to me.
Can you talk about your character's relationship with religion and how that's at conflict with the other characters in the show?
Yeah. So Trepanier is an outsider in the story. Quite literally, he lives outside the walls of the settled community. He's also he's considered really a heretic by most of the people in the community, and certainly by the Catholic Church, who are very present in a missionary form. The priests that more or less run the community of Wobick. And I'm in direct opposition to them because I am a Cathar. Now, this is a religion that was pretty much wiped from the face of the earth. They existed in the 12th to the 14th century and were annihilated in France and as a heretical movement. And to the point we don't even really know that much about what they believed, because the records of their beliefs were also wiped out by the Catholic Church. And they, I mean, literally wiped out. They were massacred and with no one left standing. So their history is scant. Now, here in the 17th century, Trepanier is a proud believer in this, but he's also very contradictory, because he's not a devout follower of anything. And Catharism itself is a dualistic Gnostic religion that believes basically in that the God of the Old Testament was bad. He created matter. He created everything on earth that is the cause of all suffering. And the God of the New Testament is the Spirit, is the Holy Ghost. And so it's obviously in direct confrontation with the tenets of the Catholic Church, and it comes over in this story as a kind of druidism almost. He's a mystic. He's a dreamer. He's a spiritual man, and there's almost a voodoo-ish element to his actions, and it's not something that's that explored yet in the series, and it's not something that was in Annie Proulx's original novel. It came from Elwood Reed talking to Annie Proulx and discovering that Trepanier, that she never managed to put something like 150 pages of the Cathar story into the book. It's something she deleted, but it was something that Elwood picked up on and ran with. So it's a real insight for me into the character, because it makes him such a contradiction.
I noticed you say that it's not something that's explored yet necessarily to the full extent. And when I got to the end of the 8 episodes, I was surprised at the position that your character was in, but also that all the characters were in. So I'm wondering what you know about a second season and what you want to say.
I don't know anything when we were making it. It was left open. I mean, you've seen it, these final scenes, and we're all obviously curious to know if we're going to come back and do this. I think we all kind of wrapped on the show and said goodbye with an attitude of like, well, maybe we'll be here next year if the public like it. I mean, it's been put out as a limited series. And maybe that's what it will be, and it has a conclusion. But I think with all TV these days, we leave it on a little bit of a cliffhanger, or it can be a conclusion if one needs it to be a conclusion. But I literally don't know anything. I'd be very glad to come back and do it. We had a wonderful time, and I find it a very entertaining character to play. But I don't know. I can't tell you anything about yes, no, we're going to do another series or not.
Another show that you were on this past season was The Feed for Amazon, in North America at least. And I just wanted to ask about that, if you had anything to say about your time on that show for fans of that one.
Well, that was the only other. That's the third piece of television I've done that I did in between these two. I think that I'm only in 6 episodes of that. That was never a big investment. That's just something I'm potentially going to be in for season after season after season. It was really something I dipped into more or less as a guest star in it. I don't know if they're doing more. I haven't kept in touch with those guys, producers. I think it's something that has great potential in terms of what's really going on in the world right now, and especially the work of somewhere like where Elon Musk is going with technology, and in a very worrying terrifying dystopian way. It's something that's been on my mind much more since we're here now in lockdown. The way people are communicating only on the way I'm communicating with you now, the way I'm communicating with my father, my friends, my daughter. Everything is now computerized. So in a way that I would not have foreseen even a few weeks ago. But I think the feed has. I kind of hope it does go further, because I think that could be something, if it's handled well, could be a very interesting series.
And finally, you mentioned that you were in the New World, taking part in the earlier part of the 17th century. And I don't think I've had a chance to ask anyone, how do you feel about the way you were cut in a Terrence Malick movie?
The way I was cut?
Yes.
That's good. We were kind of always knew that was a danger working with Terrence, because of the famous story with Adrian Brody in Thin Red Line. Thin Red Line. And the way Terrence films, he'll give you an awful lot to do. He'll be rewriting stuff overnight, and he'll give you a 2-page speech in the morning, and you kind of lose your mind, because you think it's just not possible, and you've got to be on your toes the whole time. And one expects, I think, not to necessarily see the film that you thought you were making. To be honest, I can't quite remember. I only ever saw it the once. I can't quite remember how I felt. I remember I think I got shot. I think I had a speech just before I was shot, and I started the speech, and after about 2 lines, somebody shot me. And I was like, oh no. And I spent like four nights staying up, going crazy, learning the speech that had just been given to me. So, but I think I think people suffered more than me in that film. I mean, some quite big people, I don't even talk at all, I think. But that's, to work with Terrence Malick is a great honour, and actually a beautiful thing. Not many people know Terrence Malick is not such a strange enigma in terms of who he is. He's a very, very wonderfully happy man who wears Hawaiian shirts with enormous lobsters on them most days, and is not some kind of dark Edgar Allan Poe-ish kind of figure. Is just a very charming, beautiful, very humorous man.
Okay, David. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat. To our viewers, you can check out Barkskins, airing 2 episodes a week for the next 4 weeks. And on our YouTube channel, we have an interview with Marcia Gay Harden and other Emmy contenders. And on golderby.com, you can make your own Emmy predictions.
Thank you.